Hello everybody, I'm Prakriti Vanyar. Welcome to Storytellers United by Purple Pencil Project. A quick minute of introduction. Purple Pencil Project is a platform for readers and writers to explore Indian literature from across languages and cities and states of India, across the different parts of India. And we're also a new books to screen adaptation agency. We have with us Smita Bhattacharya, who's the author of 14, I think 14, I saw 14 on Amazon, 14 novels of the whodunit thriller, crime and mystery genre. She writes atmospheric and cozy psychological mystery fiction, with which I love, is strong female protagonists. When I saw that there was like a Nancy Drewish female protagonist in one of your books, I think the trilogy, I was like, yes, finally something I wanted to read, right? I grew up reading Nancy Drew and thought, why isn't she Indian? Or why don't we have an Indian female detective? So, so yeah, that's like her genre of writing. And her latest book, at least the one I saw, if I'm wrong, please correct me, is Shut the Lights, which is a dark and unpredictable tale of family secrets and the lens we go to save the ones we love. I think it's a perfect read for like lovers of non-formulaic domestic noir suspense and someone who wants to maybe tinker with the memories of the lockdown. Hello, Smita. Welcome to Storytellers United. I'm sorry it took so long for us to get together on this, but I'm so glad we're making it happen, and thank you for making the time.
Thank you, Prakriti. That's a very lovely introductions, and I'm so excited to be here. So 14 books, yes, but I think many of them are also short story collections and novellas. Maybe full-length books would be 6. But it's like I really love writing so much, and I would just when I think there is an exciting book or an exciting concept, I just want to put it out there to the world, to read it because it's an exciting story for you. So yeah, there are a lot of full-length novels, and I think 6 last count, and the rest are just short stories. But again, I'm really excited to be here, really excited to be talking to you. So yeah, glad to be here.
Awesome. Short story collections are not any easier to write from what I've dabbled with writing so far. So I don't think that changes the fact. And we will come to your consistency in a bit, because I've been baffled by that number itself. Doesn't matter what the format. But I want to start from obviously your, at least in my knowledge, or you're one of the few genre writers in that sense. You've stayed consistent with the genre you've dabbled in. Which I don't know of many such writers, contemporary writers perhaps. Um, how do you do that? How do you stay fresh while also staying familiar territory, right? How do you come up very simple things, trying to um, come up with new twists and not being derivative in that process? What is the secret, or what is the, not even the formula or secret, but how do you approach writing the same genre time and time again?
Yeah. So, you know what? Before I began writing, I knew that romance is one of the most read genre, right? And I have some of my short stories are romance, and I've tried writing romance. But when I start off writing, it eventually becomes dark. And eventually I'm thinking of killing off somebody. So it's like no matter how hard I try to change up and mix it up, somehow I think innately I just turn up writing dark mystery. They're not always murders, but yes, more or less they're always dark. And so growing up, Edgar Allan Poe was one of my favorite authors, and gradually as I grew up, I began choosing the darker of all, even romances, right? I began Wuthering Heights was my favorite romance book, if you can call it that. And so my predilection, my tendency has always been to like mysteries. To the darker the better, the bloodier the better. I love horror. And even in terms of reading, I prefer that. Now, what I can say is, so there's a conflict in this whole genre. Okay, you have to hit the right buttons. You have to hit the right notes, because there are just 4 or 5 kinds of mysteries in the world, to be honest. If you drill down the most famous mystery books, the plot points are basically the same. It's the butler did it. It's basically someone you don't suspect who does it. the spouse has done it. There's an unreliable narrator trope. The tropes are more or less same. And if you've sometimes you have people like, Gone Girl began the whole unreliable narrator trope, and after that there are many, and there were those books even before that, but it actually hit the bestseller list. And then there were many more like that. Then there's the atmospheric, how many books have you read or series you've seen where there is a troubled detective with a, backstory? It's literally the same everywhere. So some of these tropes are consistent, and it doesn't take much thinking. You only have to create a very unique character, like Darya is an Indian girl with a troubled past who, she's unapologetic about how she is. She drinks, she sleeps around, she doesn't care, but she's also smart and she solves some very unsolvable mysteries, right? So you do those twists, you maybe personalize it, or you make it regional, or give a local twist to it, make it atmospheric. Like my first book is based in Goa, so it's like, it has so much Goa flavor, right? And I also like, and I think books are getting outrageous in terms of how the twists are working, but I like giving some really good twists. And I feel like the best test is when I think of it, my heart starts racing. And then I'm like, okay, I can introduce this. So I don't know. I mean, imagination, of course, has a long, has a role to play. But I think, and I would, if someone intends to get into this genre, I will say read a lot, watch a lot, and don't deviate too much from the norm. Just give it your own flavor and make the twists really good. And that really happens with imagination. So I don't know if that is a long answer to your question, but it's a difficult question to answer.
Absolutely. No, I understand. I mean, which is why you're asking it, right? We're just poking around here. But you said something, lost my train of thought here. But you spoke about, yeah, a twist is good when your heart's really racing. So is that a twist you were incredibly proud of? I know, I mean, spoiler alert to everybody who's watching. But
No, I cannot. So they would. So I think the third of the Darya Nantkani series has a really good twist in the end. The old book is based in a very medieval town in Romania, where I was actually living while I was writing this book. And I just, I was just, there's this, I cannot tell you the twist, but it has a lot of, what do you say, supernatural elements and everything. But in the end, it just ties up, and there's one major twist which actually twists the whole story around. The, the best twist is when the victim is actually the perpetrator.
mhm.
And so that is actually, turning the whole thing around. Who you think is the person who has suffered is actually the person who has caused suffering. So I think that kind of twists work the best. But people are very clever now, and they realize right in the beginning that since she's focusing on that person as a victim, she's definitely the culprit. But I think I managed to do that well in that book. Yeah, and just another last point here. It's often also a slow burn thing. So in the beginning, you present something like there's a kind of a technique we use called foreshadow. Like you in the beginning, you there is a scene which happens somewhere in the end, and it basically completely turns around your view, and then you grow. There's a backstory leading to it. So the stronger that foreshadow is, the better it is, like the better the twist is. That's another technique I use. So some of my books have that. Shut the Lights has some small poems across the book which confuses you. Who's this? Yeah, so there are many, and I cannot talk about them. But yeah, there are some ways to do it. Yeah.
Very cool. Yes, we will. We do this off the record sometime in a room
Yeah.
with five writers, and just tell them that.
Oops.
Fair enough. You spoke of a few things which I want to touch upon. One is you were in Romania when you were writing your when shut the lights.
Third book.
Yeah,
Yeah, third
third
Darya
third
Nantkani
third
series.
Darren Ankari book. Sorry. And I want to kind of jump off of that and talk about just the theme of exploration, which I really see in you in general, right? One, of course, is your illustrious career as a solo traveler. I don't know how much you've spoken about it. at other places, but you visited what, for the last interview I read, you were at 45 places. You've
Yeah,
visited
yeah,
45 places as a solo traveler, 45 countries, sorry.
yeah.
Um, I saw some of your like work history, and I saw you've done a bunch of different jobs, like in a bank, and I have it all written down here. But like in a vineyard, in a newsroom, and honestly, this is the kind of like field journalist work that I've heard of. I've never heard of people, being able to switch them as like careers, as jobs, like holding jobs in such diverse things. And I know, of course, just the way you write, world building is so integral to it, because you create that atmosphere. You bring out not just the characters' history, but an emotional depth, but also the geographies of these places. So when did this, like, you are just by nature an exploration explorer? Is that kind of somewhere the right statement to make?
Yeah, it is actually. I have never used it myself, but I think I'm going to start using the exploration, the epithet. It's quite an interesting one. I've always found myself, I'm curious and I'm hyperactive. That's how I've always seen myself. And that's how I like filling my time. Like, I'm just in the early in the morning. I'm like, okay, we will do this next hour. And I also like, I mean, job wise, like your half your day is occupied, and then you have to write also, you have to maintain that discipline. So it helps that I'm hyperactive, and I like to film all my waking hour doing something, reading, watching TV, playing a sport, or so it's like a full occupied day. But like you mentioned, the career changes, right? Some of them are long-term paid careers. Like I worked in a bank, I was in management consulting. Right now, I'm in a tech startup. I was in media, I was in the newsroom. So those are all proper long, like 3-4 year jobs. And they just happened, and I'm okay. So I plunge in without really thinking a long-term career. How is it going to pan out? Which I would not say many of my friends or colleagues would have ever even thought of. They like stability. And I just jump in headlong. I got a new opportunity. Let me figure out how things work, So that's how I go in. And the other things, like I think for about like half a year, I took a sabbatical, and I went around Europe. I know many people do that, like backpacking, but I did this thing called work away. So I did short stints in many countries. Like I was teaching in a school for like a month. So there's short 1 month, 2 month kind of a break, which you get paid a stipend and food and boarding. So those are not like big jobs. But it did teach me a lot. Like it taught me how difficult it is to be a teacher. I was like, my God, never again. I will never again look down on, teachers. It is like so much work. And everything, like even vineyard, right? I will appreciate the glass of wine I'm going to have, because it's so much hard work doing just plucking grapes in the sun. I was in Bulgaria doing it, and I was like, I will never again look down. I mean, one glass of wine is so much effort. So many grapes go wasted, right? Um, so all this was more exploratory and more short term in nature. So I think I have a thirst. I'm like the travel bug, which they say every month. I'm like, okay, where am I going to go next? When am I going to get, like, I would say my favorite place in the world is an airport. I don't think many people can say that, but in a flight or in an airport is where I feel the highest when I'm going somewhere or I'm planning for something. So it's I think it's just like a hunger or a thirst I have, junoon, the Hindi word for it, to do new things, to fill my life with new things. I think that really drives me on.
So how did you, I know it's a little bit off topic, but how do you manage that during having your bank and careers in bank, which, and that was pre-COVID, so I don't think offline work was even too much of an accepted concept.
Yeah.
That was
So it's
like,
it's sorry. So sometimes it has been when I'm deputed abroad, it's much easier when
mm,
you're like if you're 1 or 2 months like you're working abroad. So you have the ability to go around on weekends, right? Europe is very easy that we can cover so much in like a little time. When I move jobs from one job to another, I take about a month off, and people wonder what will happen to my insurance, what will happen to my 1 month salary, but I don't really care. Like I love traveling so much. So I just took 1 month off and I went everywhere. And then there was a sabbatical. Plus, now, like every 2, 3 months, so you do get some leaves. And interestingly, my current job is completely remote. So that also helps. So not that I can work from outside India because that has tax implications, blah blah. But it doesn't, like, when I have to commit to family time, it doesn't take it away from family time. Like, I can work remotely and also give time to family. But when I want to travel on, to new places, like I'm going to Kenya next month, Kenya, Tanzania. I can do that. I can do it like within a week. I can just, plan out. And it doesn't, like, for many people who don't like traveling or haven't traveled much, the whole idea is gives them anxiety. But I have done it so much now that I can just think of a place and I just know how to make the itinerary. It just happens in my head. So it's like it's become like that now.
Love that. Love that. And that must have also enriched your writing so much, right? Just having these perspectives and these experiences, knowing the different, like, sensory
Yeah, absolutely.
feelings of a place, of different places. I
Yeah.
can imagine how that must
People
have.
you meet. Mm.
Yeah, people you meet, of course. I mean, nothing without people, but also, like, so much of the background
Yeah.
helps build it up and differentiate. Like you said, at the end of the day, there's just a few mysteries you can have, but it's how you add the details that change, one differentiate
Absolutely.
one book from another. Um, so, you've spoken and you're really one, we do lots of interviews with authors. One is generally a blanket interview to understand them, and then we dive into books. So for this, I just want to, like, kind of explore more facets of you. One of them, of course, being a reader, because at least writing and reading is so much the same, as two sides of the same coin. So if you can talk a little bit about exploring through reading, right? Like, how has your reading journey been? Are you someone who reads the genre to write better, or avoids the genre so you don't sound derivative and don't sound like imitate, like you're unconsciously imitating some author that you like? Nothing wrong with that, just that's something tend to happen. So how do you approach a reading before becoming a writer and after becoming a writer? Has that changed?
Yeah, good question actually. And um, so I read voraciously. Like, I would say I read, like, I'm always reading. Like, I have never, like, every day I read like at least for an hour. And I mix it up, to be honest. So it's not like I'm not so usually when I am writing a particular book, I don't read mystery at that time. Because then you're right, you might just start using the same words, same situation, and it may just become derivative. So that does happen. Um, but I do read a lot of mysteries. I also watch a lot of mysteries, and I'm at least in a month, I would say if I read 5, 6 books, 3 are mysteries. And 3 would be something else, like I also like a lot of multicultural mysteries. Like, I love, I don't think I call British mysteries multicultural, but I would read Japanese. I love Japanese mysteries. Then, something like, I'm always seeking out, like, what does this like, you have the book like Mexican Gothic, or you have Spanish, the Spanish authors who have, so I'm always seeking out new authors in new countries. The Nordic Noir, the Scandinavian mysteries. I read them so much. French. So I'm looking at translations and I'm trying to read mysteries to get a different flavor. I love atmospheric mysteries, so that's why I like Scandinavian mysteries so much. I love ton of French genre of mysteries. So these are a couple of themes that underlie the kind of books I like reading. I don't read romance unless it is like like I read Lessons in Chemistry recently, which I loved. It was a very simple, straightforward book, and it was again essentially a romance, but and with some feminism thrown in. But I like it. It's very light, and it gives me a different perspective. I also read that book, The Seven Husbands of I forget the name. So I
I,
do read other books. Yeah, the writer from LA, I forget the
yeah,
name.
I know that. I
But
can see the cover, but I'm unable to remember the name.
yeah. So I do read other genres, only best-selling romance novels. I've read Colleen Hoover, I've read Verity, I've read Layla. So it's but I mean, I don't think they would be my go-to books, but I do mix it up. And I also read autobiographies, which I actually quite like. So just to summarize and answer your question, I do read mysteries. It is important to keep on point to how um, mysteries are being written, and also it gives you a lot of ideas of technique. Like, interestingly, I mean, I'm reading this book called The Appeal by Janice Elliott, I think, and very interesting book. Like, it's such a the whole book is just letters. I know there have been books written like that before, but it's just letters and messages, and a whole mystery is unfolding in those letters. So I thought this technique is very interesting. A couple of recent movies also have used this technique, like The Missing on Netflix, Search. All of these are just messages, and computer conversations. It's very unique. It keeps your attention, and it's important to read all this to know what read what can interest readers. So it's important to keep abreast of all this, but not too much, so that you lose your own voice. Your voice is also very important, so that should not ever get submerged. But lastly, I want to say that there are many writers who say, I don't read at all, I don't get the time, but I absolutely think that is not the way to go. Writers should read a lot, and enrich their writing with the books they read. At least it will happen subconsciously, so it doesn't have to be derivative, but it has to be rich with what they read.
Yeah, I was going to say that anyone who, and not just writers, but writers especially, but anyone who complains that they don't get time to read because they're binge watching something or because there's too much
Yeah.
content, could take a page out of your book. Literally, not literally, hopefully. You're not tearing up
No.
your books,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
figuratively, because I think that's really inspiring. And I've also, just to kind of like think out loud, I've seen that when you actually start reading, really time slows down. So you think you don't have enough time, but when you sit to read,
Yeah.
you can really enjoy. And within, even if you have 20 minutes of reading, you can finish far more reading than you think you can.
Exactly.
In my experience, that it's just a way of it's just an excuse at the at the very least.
Yeah.
There's too much
No, and I
content.
also think, for people who say that, I think it's like running, or it's like any workout. The more you read, the more you want to read, and reading is a very good meditative act. You increases your focus, it increases your, you shut yourself out of the world. Plus you learn a lot, you learn different cultures. Even if you're reading fiction, you learn like what other people are thinking. Non-fiction is, even autobiographies are so good. You can read people's experiences. I think it's about habit. Build it up every day. Read 10 minutes, and just build it up. I think reading is a habit we should never let go. It's an active habit, right? Unlike
Yeah.
Netflix, where you're just passively watching something. It's actively, your imagination is being used. So I think it's something everybody should keep at it.
Oh, absolutely. And you think talking of like his multicultural mysteries, I was thinking Korea has some very good stuff in that genre. If I don't know if you've checked
Yeah,
it out yet.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, no, no, not really. I haven't gone. I mean, I on TV, yes, but I have not read anything. I read a lot of Japanese mysteries,
Yeah,
but
they are
Korean
good.
is. I will look up. I have not yet. If you have some recommendations, and feel free to like message
Yeah,
me.
I will
Check
do
it
that.
out.
I will do that.
Mm.
Absolutely. You've covered this because I want to talk to you about writing consistently, showing up at your writing desk, right? Um, the one part of it is that if you're on the move, how do you find that anchoring kind of feeling to sit and write? And the second
Mm.
part of it is, of course, you're juggling through activities. Now,
Mm.
from what I've read of brain science and switching context actually helps you not center yourself, or like it takes away from you focusing. So, is there a method or a process that you've used as a writer to say, okay, I want to do this many things, but I also want to show up at my desk and write every day. So here's what I'm gonna do to like kind of make that happen. How do you approach
Happen,
that?
yeah. So when I'm on the move, I think I have discovered something which works for me is recording. Like I have Otter app, and I usually transcribe. So sometimes I write full scenes. I dictate full scenes on Otter, which is OTTER, if anybody wants to check it out. And then I pick up the paragraph, I edit it, and I put it back. It really helps. It increases your writing speed quite a bit. So I think that is something which is on the move. But yeah, oftentimes I don't feel like really sitting and writing, because it's also about the atmosphere, and I feel like it's okay to take a break. So I do that often. But on a regular day, right? So I feel it's also like brushing your teeth. Um, it's like it's such a pain, or even exercising, right? It's such a pain to show up at the gym, but after you do it, you feel good. It's the same thing with writing. After I tell myself just sit and write. I mean, I try write every day, even if it's like for 10 minutes, and even from editing a scene, I try doing it every day, just showing up every day. Just even now, after this call, I will probably sit and write for like half an hour, 45 minutes. Although I've been working since 9 in the morning, and I just had all my off work calls, and it's not been easy. And I probably have a call later in the night too. But it's like I do want to do it today, because like brushing my teeth, I cannot sleep without brushing my teeth. It's a habit. So this is also a habit. And I know afterwards I will feel good. And even while writing, to be honest, sometimes I'm so immersed, I forget that sometimes when I'm writing, it feels like I'm watching a show, and what's going to happen next. I'm really interested in knowing what's going to happen to the character next, so it's very exciting also to write. Um, I think if you love it enough, you will show up.
Mhm.
And sometimes the loving doesn't come to think. It's like, it's like a marriage. It's like, you have a commitment. Let's stay married. And you show up every day and you work towards it every day, and the rewards are worth the effort you're putting in.
Mhm.
It's the same thing. It's like, that, it gives you joy. You will show up every day. And it'll not always be easy. Sometimes it's like, I can hardly get words out, but it is worth it because it means something to you, so it will happen. So anybody out there, like this is my this is the advice I heard when I started out, and this is advice I give to any wannabe writers, is just start, just start writing. One day when you cross 10,000 words, or even like 10,000 is like the first, you know padav, or the first hurdle, and then you will want to go forward, so it's just get started. If you love it enough, it'll keep happening.
Yeah, how did you get started? Like, how did that first idea, first book, and the first publishing deal come out? Like, I'm very interested to know that journey of yours.
Yeah, okay, that's an interesting and a very loaded answer, actually, not a question. So I have been writing for a long time, but mostly short stories. While they are they're punchy, it's not always easy to write a short story, because they have to a whole world in a drop, right? So it has to be punchy, and it has to stay with the reader. So I've been writing short stories. It's come like, so they're like abstract concepts I write as a story, interesting enough to. But writing a book is a lot of patience and a lot of determination. So there was a time when at work I was having like a bad time at work with my bosses were not like, the whole atmosphere was toxic. The whole management was changing, and I was not finding support that I should have at my workplace, and I was quite depressed, you could say that. I was not happy at work. It was not fulfilling enough. And I was like, where is my life going? What is the meaning of all this? The whole existential thing just was bubbling inside me. So I was like, and I have been meaning to write a book for a while. I've been, so I began by writing some short snippets, basically transcribing how my workplace was, not with those people, but just of a girl, of a girl suffering at her workplace, and what kind of emotions going through in her life and the official office. And then the story just grew, and then at that time I wasn't getting too much to do at work, because a lot of, again, management changes, nobody trusted me enough to do anything. So again, a lot of a very toxic environment. So I put all of the angst in my book, and thus was born Dead to Them, which is my, like, it's a office mystery with a very troubled girl, and very gray characters around her. Everything changed. Like, I wrote this book, and after that everything changed, and it has only been upward trajectory from there. But I could say that I was like, life has given me lemons. Now let me make a lemonade or a novel out of this. That is a thought process I went with. And I had a lot of time then, and also determination. So I think sometimes there are life situations which propel you to write. It was one of them. And once I got a book, I was like, okay, this is interesting. People wrote to me and said they loved the book and whatever. People also didn't say that. I mean, people also said they didn't like the books. Whatever, it was something was out in the world. I was like, so I can do more of it. And then I began writing another and another, and I just found the whole process so exciting and the feedback so much fun. And so it just went on from there. But the first one was born out of misery, you could say.
Everyone needs a push now and then.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, whatever, and we all readers are all happy that you had to just went about your office at that time.
Yeah,
Um,
maybe they can see themselves in it. I don't know. I mean, it's everybody goes through that professionally, right? So, yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I wouldn't normally ask this, right, in general, but you've been a solo woman traveler for years. Um, I know it's not a writer's, it's not your writerly, not an angle from a writer's perspective, but how do you do it as a woman, right, in this world that we live in? What are the tips, and how did you start solo traveling, and how did you navigate that as a woman? I mean, it's getting safer.
Yeah.
It's not always been like that, and it is not perfect right now for a woman out there. So what are the ways you navigate that? I'm just very curious to know. It's not, I know it's not directly related to our
Yeah.
conversation.
Oh, yeah, I know. But so when I think so, it's a double-edged sword, right? Or it's like there are two ways. So everybody says it's very unsafe for women. Like when I was a kid, my mom, who had literally never solo traveled and until then had not even gone outside India, her whole world was India and how India treats its women, right? Um, so she would always scare me. And that's how I thought. And of course, we also experience it, right? How people look at us as women in India. It's in my experience, it's harder to travel solo in India than abroad. It's so much easier abroad because some countries are just made for women, or not made for, more safer or conducive to women traveling on their own. India is really hard, and so that often colors our judgment.
Mhm.
So I began solo traveling in the easiest possible place, right? So I think Europe is the easiest place you should start. Western Europe, not even Eastern, but Western Europe is where you should start. So it could be London or Paris or Budapest or Prague, the usual suspects. Again, all this is comes with the caveat that while these places are safe for women or for people in general, um, of course, there are issues and we have to be safe. But I think the issues in these countries are for men and women both, more or less. You have theft, you have mugging, you have burglary, or you even have assault, physical assault. It can happen to both men and women, and it's not like um assault is taken as a kind of punishment for women or anything. So it's much more easier in these countries and acceptable in these countries to see a solo woman traveling on the streets. So that's where I started. Western Europe was where I started. And I think I grew in confidence, and I saw that people are not as bad as I was told. People are actually very helpful and good. Like when the first time I went to Paris, I was told nobody will understand your language, nobody's going to help you. All the waiters are rude. Yes, the waiters are rude. But I think as a solo traveler, I've had people come out on the streets and actually help me. Even at that time, I think Paris, not many people spoke English. That was many years ago, like almost 15 years ago, the first time I went. But when I went recently, many more people were speaking English. And, it was much more multicultural. So much has changed. That made me grow in confidence. And then I started expanding my arena. Then I went to Southeast Asia. Again, many countries are very pro tourist, and they don't really, it's not really difficult. I don't take some risks. I don't go out partying or go to a club or pub if I'm on my own. I might do it with friends or people I know, but I would never do it. After 8 or 9, I'm usually back in my house. I'm never in a seedy neighborhood. Sometimes by mistake, I have landed up there, but I just avoid it. Um, and now I've even begun traveling solo within India. I think there are ways to get around it. having said that, I think one should check if those places are safe. Like I went to Mexico on my own 2 months ago. Everybody scared me so much. But there are places in Mexico which are safe, and which you can navigate on your own as a woman. And they will not kidnap you. So it's like, so um, we should take these advice with a pinch of salt, but also be careful, I think. And to anybody who wants to start off or do, a bit of it, I would say start small, start easy, go to the easier places to go to, like a Bali is an easy place to go to. I'm not talking of the monetary or the time angle, just in terms of ease of, being a female traveler. Many other conditions, I mean, of course, conditions are there. Then I would say, I think London is very good. Paris is very good. Berlin is one of my favorite cities. So that's very easy to travel in. So Western European cities, some of the Southeast Asian cities are very pro women. And some of the Indian cities also are. Like the hills are very good. Like, all Dharamshala and, Kasol. And they are all very, Manali, very safe and reasonably safe. But keep your wits about you. Don't accept, drinks from anyone or invitations to go somewhere alone. You have to be careful. As a woman, especially, you have to be careful. But start small and start the usual generic way. That's how I did. And now I've grown in confidence and now I know things to do. So that's how I think I'm right now here.
It's all about breaking stereotypes and with cautious courage.
Yeah, cautious. Yeah, cautiously, slowly, cautiously. Don't, I mean, there are rules for a reason. So, we have to mind, your parents tell you things for a reason. So I'm not saying you follow them to the T, but you should give them some heed, not completely bypass them.
Oh, absolutely. Just to quickly wrap up, what are you currently working on as a writer and what are you reading? I know you're always reading something. What are you reading right now?
Yeah, so I'm reading The Appeal, like I said, the very interesting book on the whole mystery, unraveling through just letters. So I'm reading that. And then I have a couple more close. So, okay, let me just answer the second question. What am I writing right now? So, last year, a couple of our friends, we met in Goa in a villa. And, it was like we stayed all the time. It was a beachfront villa, but we barely went to the beach. There was this a beautiful villa with a swimming pool, and everybody stayed in. And thus was born an idea of a closed room mystery in my head of this group of 4 friends who are visiting with their family, and how one of them dies, and it's like a merry-go-round of who has killed that person. It's like somewhat like Then There Were None, one of the earliest and the best-selling closed room mysteries. So I started writing last year. I think it's been a year that I've been writing like every day now, but it's almost done. The manuscript is almost done. So it's a closed room mystery of, a who done it, Agatha Christie style. So that's what I'm writing, and I think yeah, that's what is on the cards next.
We hope your friends forgive you for turning out.
I know. I've warned them. I've changed the names, but they will know who it is once they read the book. But they don't know who got killed, which of them got killed in the book. So that's going to be the twist you were asking for. For them, at least, it's going to be like the twist.
Mortals just play mafia. You write it. Like a game
Yeah.
called Hum to Likh Lete.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. True, true.
Well,
Mafia is my favorite game, by the way. Yeah.
I'm not surprised. But this has been incredibly delightful on so many levels, right? Because I know, like, yes, to the writing and the books, but there's so much more um, that I've enjoyed talking to you about. So thank you so much, Smita. To everybody who's watching, links to her books and her website will be in the description. So please check them out. I think they're fascinating. And I'm all very embarrassed that I haven't had my chance to read them yet. I'm not a mystery reader by my nature, so it's been a genre itself that I have to explore. But to everyone, please, fans of the genre, you all should check it out, check those books out, and we look forward to more of your stories. So thank you so much, Smita, for being with us.
Thank you, Prakriti. Such a pleasure talking to you. Thank you.
Bye.